It's the Craggy Rugby Podcast. I'm Rob Murphy. Connacht 34, the Vodacom Bulls 7. A bonus point win. The perfect response to the disappointment in Cardiff last week. And the season is up and running. Alan Deegan, you are very welcome along.
Hiya, Rob. Wow, what a pleasure to be back in the Clan stand again. When the Bulls went 7-0 up, there was a ooh, and there was a bit of feeling of are we in big trouble here? And then Connacht started playing rugby and they started doing stuff, and then the Clan reacted, and then the players reacted to the Clan, and it just kept going. It was amazing to be back in a crowd roaring and shouting, and the Clan are back, never mind Connacht.
They are. And you know what? On the Greyhound stand side, they were brilliant as well, because I'm up above them, and boy were they loud, and they kicked off a brilliant Fields of Attenry at one point, so it all adds up. Dave Finn, welcome along.
Good evening, everyone. This is a podcast not brought to you by a well-known pubic topiary company, which is the only one in existence. I think you know, everything is sponsored by that particular company right now. All podcasts are, apart from ours.
What's he talking about? You're going to have to explain yourself.
Manscaped. Everything's sponsored by Manscaped. You listen to our podcast, it's Manscaped or Better Health.
Okay.
Right.
That's staying in.
I think if
we're leaving that in.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm not sure where he's going with this.
Anyway, if you're going to go...
We're not listening to enough podcasts, clearly.
If we're going to talk about the Clan stand, if we're going to talk about the main stand, can we talk about the guys who stood out in the last 20 minutes on the terraces? Because that's bravery. Because the last 20 minutes were horrible. And to stay behind and cheer, and they had something to cheer. It was good. It was good all round. And for the first time in a year, over the last year, I've been able to hear your commentary because I've been able to hear you. And even with headphones and listening to the radio, you got drowned out by the Clan tonight.
Well, there you go. And at one stage, Linley, I just let the Clan terrace, and in the case of where we were commentating, the main Greyhound stand crowd sing the Fields of Attenry. It was around 74 minutes, and it's one of my favourite things to do in commentary, when the crowd is singing and we just stay quiet and let that ring across the airwaves all over the world. Beautiful sound. Great to be back.
Absolutely. And it was just a perfect result for the first time in, since February 2020?
That feels like last week, though, when people say that.
But it doesn't. I mean, it actually feels like a hell of a long time to me.
No, it's a hell of a long time since there's people here, but it's hard to believe we're actually in 2021. We started a new season. It's this weird mix of it's ages since we've had them here, but also so much time has passed.
So much time has passed, but I think the problem with that is that in many ways it's because we have stood still for so long that it seems like it was only yesterday, because we actually haven't done a lot in the last 1.5. I understand.
We're all suffering from this vortex. We just don't know where we are. But what we do know is it's kind of emotional. It's not as emotional as if you had told us in 2020 this was going to happen. We would have said people will be crying to be back. You know, it'll be all this kind of over top. I think people have learned to adapt. They've slowly got used to the idea that this is all coming back to normal. It's a slow rebuild. So I don't think it's like, oh my God, I'm at a rugby match. But I think what happened, and Alan's nailed this, Linley, is the game itself brought them out of their shells. The performance.
Well, absolutely, because they were pretty stunned, weren't they, after that opening try? And I think Connacht were pretty stunned as well, you know.
Kind of like us when Dave started talking about pubic hairs there. But
I have to say, they're not just...
They're talking about not pubic hair.
Fair point.
I'm very confused because I didn't think they were just the sole prerogative of a man anyway, but anyway.
There's a staff member in my shop who says, you know, when people throw the chains out, she calls them public hairs. There's one for you. Anyways, oh my God, what a start to this podcast.
I think the public here tonight really enjoyed what was on offer. No, I have to stop laughing.
I think we do. Our producer William is in the background. If he's listening, I'm stunned. If he's not listening, no, he's not listening. Wait until he hears this. Will it ever make it to air? Who knows? Alan?
No, and I know, just talking about people are being happy. Simon, the Connacht analyst, have come across the field, and every time we've ever seen him, he's waved us instead of low. He whistled the whole way
I
across the
hope
field.
people heard that.
Yes, absolutely. It was just fantastic. I thought, there is a satisfied man.
Zip-dee-doo the situation there for Simon. Listen, it's great because, Linley, I think last week, you know, myself and William were in Cardiff and we were chatting to Andy Friend afterwards and Jared Butler, and they were both extremely disappointed and frustrated with the way they finished that game, but a little bit defiant because they felt they did a lot of things right. You back it up this week and now you can look back at last week and say, yeah, you probably did do a lot of things right outside of the mirage that was the end.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a litmus test, really, wasn't it? In the sense that we have this new style of rugby, and it's not the finished product yet. It was very disappointing last week. Now, you have to look at the opposition as well. The Bulls have come over here. They have a style of rugby, and whether they're going uphill or downhill, I'm not really sure, according to Jake White, in his interview. But
were you in on that press conference as well?
I was listening to it, yes. And whatever about that, they are a big physical side, hugely physical side. And I thought that Connacht were absolutely incredible, the way that they just stood up to them and kept in the waves of defence, particularly in the early part of the game, when they could have, I know they did concede one try, but that was kind of off the cuff kind of thing, at the very beginning. So I think it was more the performance that I think the whole crowd got behind, because this new style of rugby, they have to defend, but they also have to score tries. And gosh, wasn't it wonderful to see the way that some of those tries were scored, and just the way they want to play them, what style, and shitty old weather out here as well, not exactly the most, conducive, to running tries. But, and
you can chase rugby, but not the way Connacht play it. And I think that's what stuns teams sometimes. They have this idea that the weather is what it is and Connacht must be what they are, and they're not.
They were also more in tune, I thought, tonight than the previous week. There was a lot more cohesiveness between them. They kind of tended to know what they were doing or what the person next to them was doing. It wasn't just anyone sort of dancing to their own tune, so to speak.
Yeah, especially if you look at last week, the two centres looked as though they didn't really know each other, even though it looks as though they hadn't played together for a long time. And like last week, Tom Farrell only got the ball 9 times in the whole game.
Wow, that's some stat.
And today he scores a fantastic try, and Tom Daly scores 2.
Dave, at one point, Farrell just left a pass up in the air, and it's like it floated in the air for at least 2 seconds. And who came onto it? Tom Daly, who was talk about being in tune.
Indeed, I think a lot of credit has to go to the management, because there were issues last week. I mean, I do think Cardiff is now a place that if we never have to play there again, that would be fantastic. Unfortunately, the rules of the competition say we have to play Cardiff in Wales every now and again. So we can park that. That's parked, it's gone. But what I thought, the faith in the management, it was 12 of the 15. There were some changes specifically for the Bulls, but not in the back line. There was no changes in the back line. That means he kept faith with the centre pairing, realising that was not a fundamental breakdown of the system. It was just individual mistakes. There was a lot of things, but there were times when it worked really well. I mean, we tend to forget. I know it was in the last minute, but Conor Fitzgerald's try last week showed what happens when it works, and that was on a bad performance. Tonight, everything clicked, and it was the faith shown in the centre pairing and in the back three, because Mack Hansen could easily, we've seen it in the past, and we've seen it with other teams. You do what Mack Hansen did last year, you get yourself a yellow card and your team goes down to 14/13. The next week, it's, you can have the weekend off. Great faith in Mack Hansen, and he rewarded them. Daly and Farrell rewarded them. The entire team rewarded them. Wouldn't have been what I'd done, but that's why I'm not a rugby coach.
Post-game interviews, Andy Friend and Mack Hansen, actually, just because you brought that up, I asked Mack Hansen about the contrast between the weeks.
Actually, before that, let's have a listen to myself and William during the match.
Oh, thank you, Alan. That's why you're the overall editor of these podcasts. I forgot about that. Will we play that into the interviews? It's the new season. I forget about some of our routines.
Okay, William, we're about 10 minutes away from kick-off, but the ground is filled up quite quickly now. It didn't look as though it was going to be full earlier on, but we've got a crowd in the Sportsground for a URC game. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's nice to be back with a crowd. They're expecting about 3,000 as the maximum in this evening. Very important game for Connacht. They really have got to get a win here tonight. Disappointing performance at times in Cardiff last week. Tonight's the opportunity to put it right. The Bulls were well beaten by Leinster, but they've had to get another game under their belt, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And it is clearing, and the wind and rain that were forecast, it's looking a bit better now. So yeah, let's get this game on.
20 minutes gone. Score is Connacht 7, Bulls 7. Fascinating game.
Yeah, a lot of kicking. Some of it pretty aimless by both sides, but they both scored a decent try. I suppose it still has that early season sort of feel to it, but Connacht are just starting to get their mojo here now. They're getting a little bit of hands on the ball. They've had a couple of good defensive sets as well, where they've kept a lot of, I went through about 19 phases I counted there, the Bulls, and Connacht's defence was really, really strong, drove them back, eventually got them to kick quite poorly. So it's good stuff, and they just need to keep this up. I think if they can keep the pressure on this side, they will get a reward.
It's half time, 10-7. Not only is rugby back, the clan are back.
Yeah, it's been buzzing in here. Not a high quality first half, I think, but plenty of endeavour from both sides. Connacht have played their way into it. Did have a try disallowed for a forward pass, which is absolutely correct, but it's the defensive stands. They've made 3 now where they've been under more than 10 phases from the Bulls, and that will give them great heart, and I think it'll put the Bulls maybe on the back foot. It'll be interesting to see if they change their game, but Connacht need to just get a little bit more accurate. They've nearly opened them up a couple of times, and the substitutes benches for both sides going to be very, very important, because this is physical and it's fast.
We missed the 60 minutes because there's been so much excitement in the second half, and Connacht have taken off. They lead 22-7.
Yeah, they really have. They've absolutely dominated this half. I don't think the Bulls have actually been inside the Connacht half at any stage, almost from the outset. And Mack Hansen has announced himself with a try for the ages, where, I don't know, what did he go, 60 metres from a kick, and he just tore through a rather startled looking Bulls defence. Connacht need to get this job just closed off for their bonus point now, but they look well capable of that. Bulls bench really hasn't fired. They've come on. Connacht well in control here, but they just need to get another score.
What a finish. Connacht win 34 points to 7, and well deserved.
Yeah, very well deserved. Bulls rather ran out of steam in the second half. Happened very early, barely got out of their own half, and Connacht just seized their opportunities. Couple of really good tries, good defensive line, made their tackles, forced errors from a rather bedraggled looking Bulls team at the end, and this is the start that Connacht needed at home, and they got to follow it up now next week against the Dragons. The same template, the same real determination, bit of dog, and a bit of just a harder edge to them, particularly when they were in defence. And it was a really, really good job. A couple of sparkling moves in attack, and overall that was excellent performance.
It certainly was. It's great to be back, and the clan were just as good.
Andy, friend, I guess it's been a while since I've started an interview with such a positive situation here, because it's very hard to pick holes in that performance, especially the second half. Outstanding display from your team.
Yeah, it's nice, Rob. Nice to have you in a good mood. I just thought the physicality, I thought the energy in defence was the thing that set the tone. And once we'd done all that hard work, and also the work of the forward pack, we got to half time 10-7 up, lead of 3 points, which I thought we deserved that. I thought we did really well to hold them out there in the last probably 2 or 3 minutes of that first half. Great penalty right at the death there. And then we said it at half time, listen, they're tired. So let's now stick to our guns. Let's be patient. And exactly what we wanted to happen happened. The floodgates opened. The bloke sitting here on my right, Mack Hansen, was outstanding, set up a beautiful try, but there were other good tries there. Tom Daly, a couple, Tommy Faz, a couple, or one try. It was just really good rugby, mate. And it was just, we needed that, Rob, because as you know, it's a new style of footy we're playing, and looks good in theory, but until you get the win, you never do you? So that's given us all a great boost of confidence. The defence was our foundation, and Cully Tucker is our defence coach. He's probably been hurt in the last few weeks because we've leaked a few points, but he's got a great system. He's got a great style about him. He asked for energy, and he asked for passion in the defence, and he got that. So I was stoked for him, but I was just stoked in the manner in which the boys turned up physically. The first try came from probably us trying to be a little bit too eager. We always talk about ball awareness. We had a penalty advantage because we had a player take out another player because he was just so keen to hit him. And then we had, close into the ruck, we had a player wanting to get off the line to put line speed on and just wasn't watching the footy. So as soon as they got back to watching the ball and defending the ball, we were fine. So, I said to hold a Bulls team, a big physical Bulls team like that, to nil points after 77 minutes, that's testament to the defence.
The game changed on Mack Hanson's try, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought it did. I thought that was the game breaker, and just what an amazing try. Like we'd had one pulled back already, and when they went to the TMO with it, I'm thinking, oh, please not allow that try. It was just such a special try. So it did change on that, mate. And as I said, it was brilliant rugby. Like I know he's sitting here beside me, but he's a hell of a footballer, and that's just the start of it.
Yeah, what is it about Australians and taking high balls? Can you give me a bit of, like, John Porch isn't bad underneath it either. We'll talk to Mack in a second, but if we have players in our back three, like Tiernan, we know has a long tradition of doing that as well. It's going to be hard to kick to Connacht, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, in Australia, we tend to grow up with a lot of ball sports. So you've got your AFL, you've got your rugby union, your rugby league, a lot of ball in the air. And because we've got the weather, you tend to be outside a lot kicking footies and catching footy. So, from a young age, you're pretty used to doing that. But, he made that look easy tonight. It certainly wasn't easy what he did.
Before I talk to Mack, I want to just talk to you about Tom Daly and Tom Farrell. They were really in the zone tonight. Both of them superb performances. Obviously, 2 tries for Tom, 1 for Tom Farrell.
Yeah, I thought they were both great. I just loved the way Tommy Farrell straightened the attack for us, and he just kept going north, which we talk about. And I thought Dales just had some great touches. That score was really important for him. And then defensively, I thought Dales put enormous pressure on them with his line speed. And it's easier to do at 12 than it is at 13. But Tommy Faz, he was equally as good on that. So, a big game from our 2 centres.
Big decision to go with a 6-2 split on the bench. You set the team up with the physicality that worked. Are you kind of vindicated? Do you feel good about that whole process?
Yeah, I don't think we needed vindication. I thought it was the right move to go against the big Bulls team. And, as you saw in the end, if we could have gone a 7-1, we probably should have, because we had Sammy Arnold come on and to go onto the flank. So we knew in order to beat the Bulls, we had to match them physically, and we had the starting 8 forwards, and then the 6 reserves come on, bouncers we call them, and so we had 14 men put in massive shift, and then Sammy Arnold had to come in and do a little bit himself as well. So I thought we were spot on to go with that, and it certainly, if you get an injury early in the backs, it can hurt you, but we didn't. So it worked for us.
Mack Hansen, first time the Connacht fans got a chance to see you. What was it like out there? What does it mean to you to get a big try like that on your home debut?
I was just talking before that even though we only had 3,000 there, it honestly felt like it was 10. I've never experienced footy where there's singing in the crowd and everything, so it was just unbelievable. It was such an amazing atmosphere, and I can't compliment the crowd enough. It's really good.
Mack, the contrast strikes me. Like last week, I don't know how you felt about your yellow card, but it felt like it was a bad moment and for yourself on a decent enough performance looking at the stats. The contrast that with a superb display tonight, did you feel that there had to be a bounce back from you? Did you feel that way about last week in terms of that yellow card late on?
No, I think from last week, I think we actually played some good footy last week as well, but just not for the full 80. So to come back this week, the coaches don't put any pressure on you. They just say go out and do what you can do. So everyone has 100% confidence in each other. So there's no you don't feel like your head's ever on a chopping block for your last opportunity, which is good.
You really were able to express yourself out there. Does the system help you do that? Do you feel the way Connacht play and what you've done in pre-season is allowing you to be at your best, as we could see tonight?
Yeah, definitely. It was just really good to see everything come together. It's what we've been working on intensely for the last couple of months. So, we haven't had as much luck in the last couple of weeks, but I think we just showed tonight like how dangerous we can be once we just stick to our structures and play our type of footy.
And Connacht type of footy, it kind of contrasts the conditions, doesn't it? There's a lot, like opposing teams constantly talk about the wind and the rain and how hard it is to play here, but Connacht seem to be playing a game as if the weather doesn't matter. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. This is beautiful, mate. Wind beautiful. Can't complain.
You're not missing hope.
No, if anything, it wasn't raining enough.
How do you build on this, Mack? What's next for this group? Like, obviously teams are going to start to watch that video and watch the way you played. You'll have to keep inventing different things and keep on your toes.
I think, we obviously have to just keep backing it up. We don't want to be a team this year that is kind of one and done, or we're on every now and then. So that's going to be the challenge for us. Just keep playing how we've been playing constantly. And I think the more people that turn up and the more people that get behind us, it's just going to give us more and more confidence. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah. Asked Mack Hansen about that, and you know what? He's already in the mould of just talking about the team. He wasn't really going to get too deep into the individual. But what he did say is he kind of noted that this isn't the kind of setup that are going to hit you hard for one mistake, and you heard his own words there, because I'm just a few minutes off that interview. I couldn't remember the exact words. I'm paraphrasing, but it was interesting that he was quick to kind of highlight that he doesn't feel it's a kind of environment where you're under pressure after making one mistake.
It can't be. Connacht can't afford to be in that sort of environment. We first of all, we don't have, and if you listen to some of the podcasts and read what Porch was saying during the week in the Sunday Independent last week, we don't have the depth, he said.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, most of the time we don't, but I think we've got more depth than people realise now.
Yeah.
Because you look at Adrian Papali'i either, if it was one strike and you're out.
Yeah. Exactly. My God, good point.
I think Andy Friend has always been quite honest about Abraham needing time. Now, I know he's probably become a little bit frustrated with him as well, and there are a lot of people who are frustrated with him that, okay, if you don't get it right this season, or if you don't get it right in the first few games, and we're not sure where your future is. I've heard some people suggest that, but I think Andy Friend has, and he's obviously worked hard at his game, obviously, as well. So tonight was a good expression, a good way for Abraham Papali'i to come back on the pitch and express himself, and I think he did that. I think he did that very well, and he didn't dominate or anything, but he did show quite a few little, snippets of what he's able to do, and I thought it was a good starting point for him.
Well, if you look at this, there's two things about it. One, last week, Cardiff, their back row was 30 kilos heavier than our back row in total, because they played a second row in the back row. This week, our back row was heavier than the Bulls' back row on the official figures that go out. Looking out there, I'm not sure the official figures are very right, but Papali'i ran for 56 metres and 13 carries. That is a phenomenal work rate against a team like the Bulls.
Dave, we were told we're scrummaging situation when Dennis Buckley was injured, a couple of other players have moved on, that we had a real problem in scrummaging. I've seen 2 weeks of scrummaging now. I've seen 6 front row forwards, a couple of young lads at loosehead, and I think they've been close to faultless. Would you agree? Oh, sorry, in scrummaging now, because there were mistakes around the line-out.
I think you've seen 7, because I think there were 3 tight heads used. I haven't seen any. I think the scrummaging in with our team has always been a strength. I mean, it hasn't really. I mean, we and what the thing is, we sometimes ourselves are slightly caught out by how good the scrummaging is, and because we expect the hookers, it could be any of them. It could be Hef, could be Della Hunt. It could be. I've even seen DTM come in, and he's a good scrummager with these boys as well. But we seem to think that we have Finlay and we have Dennis, and then there's a massive drop off, and I don't think there is. I think Matty Burke does not. The drop off from Dennis to Matty Burke is negligible. I think Jordan Duggan is a revelation, and if he was, I'll put it to you this way. I think there's a problem in Ireland is that if you don't play if you're a Connacht prop, you don't get the recognition you deserve. I cannot understand why we now think our second best loosehead is Leinster's second best tight head. Yes, our props are underestimated, but I think to a certain degree we buy into that as well, and we really shouldn't, because the drop off is negligible.
I agree, and I would say this: Matty Burke turns up on the URC team of the week, and he's one of the players who didn't get to start this week because they wanted to try something different to Doug, and they worked as a tandem really well in the last 2 weeks.
They certainly did, and Matty Burke's ball handling down at the end.
The catch from the pass from Porch.
Oh, yeah, it was just incredible stuff. And the scrum for Tom Daly's try.
Oh, yeah, you spotted this, because I was saying Ainger locks that out brilliantly in the tight head position, but you spotted something on the loose
Yeah,
end.
on this side of the field, so you wouldn't have seen on your side. But their tight head tried to drop Matty down, and he almost bends over double and then gets under him and drives him back up again. I was going, wow, that's an amazing piece of scrummaging. And of course we score from it. I was like, wow, well done, Matty Burke, and he won't get the credit for that.
Well, I think he might now. I was just impressed with so many other elements too, Linley. I mean, we could talk all night, but all the good rugby Connacht played. But the Tom Tom show, is that right? The Tom Tom Club. The Tom Tom Club. Thank you, William, who's producing quietly in the background there. The Tom Tom Club, as we're calling them now.
The Tom Tom Club.
Dave, I will get the reference because it was explained to me, and I do like talking heads, and I'm going to look them up now on Spotify. Carry on, Linley. She's very confused. The Tom Tom Club, good band, apparently, bit obscure, bit niche.
Okay, just a bit like myself.
That's one of those ones where that's one of those ones where I had to check, is it okay to say exactly? And I think it is. Niche for sure.
That is it.
That is certainly niche. Unique is the way I'd put it.
The question is,
Yeah. What about our centre partnership? Which is we've talked about them already, but the back line is working so well.
yeah, I think it's a great centre partnership that they have gelled so well. Knowing that Bundyaki is still there to come in, and knowing that Bundyaki might not hugely play a huge amount of games, given terms of international commitments anyway, when there are some. So yes, I think they're a perfect. They've obviously really gelled together. Both of them as individuals are actually good footballers. I think Tom Daly is the one who has grown so much more than when he first came here. He has really, really developed, and obviously he's obviously enjoying his life in Connacht that he maybe didn't enjoy elsewhere, and I think that's a really important facet to people's ability to improve. Is if they're happy, then they will improve and they will enjoy their rugby, and I think he's a sure sign of it.
We're building towards the big Mack Hansen chat to finish this week's podcast. I just want to mention that Tiernan O'Halloran has 192 appearances for Connacht now. That was try number 40, and you got to listen to the midweek podcast if you like to put a euro on things, because Alan Deegan is a genius for this kind of stuff. He just tells me when people are going to score tries, and he said, why would I speak about the stats that you make? Tell us what was coming this week. I hope you put some money on that.
I didn't actually, unfortunately. I didn't.
Fair play. Who cares about gambling? Gambling's a waste of time. Main point is
he was due to score a try. He hadn't scored in 6 games. He averages a score every 4 to 5 games. And I thought, I just put it down. Sometimes I look at, but I forgot. I was actually under pressure with other things today, and I forgot to put the bet on. But I just have to keep an eye on it.
And you said Tom Farrell hadn't scored since November 2019, and you were like, it sounds like he's due as well, and you were right.
Yeah. You look at it's amazing how stats actually tell true stories, and how when players get into scoring averages, they keep it there, and it stays there. Like you're looking at, another reason for Tiernan scoring was that Kieran was catching up with him. You see, his 2 tries last week, Kieran was only 2 tries behind him. Now he's gone a little bit further ahead. So yeah, Matty's.
Kieran Marmion. And if you notice, he was dying to get the pass from, was it Papali'i? He was the only one. He was the only up there on his shoulder saying, "Give it to me. I'll finish it off for you."
William was pointing out off air that we are short in scrum halves. Caelan Blay was on the bench, but they didn't use him. We were,
He did a absolute full-on end of match fitness thing, and he was running a half length of the field and doing all the sprints and doing all that stuff.
He might be ready to start then next week.
Yeah,
possibly, if you want to give Marmion a weekend off. There's a huge game of Munster looming. There is a must-win against the Dragons next week. We have a midweek podcast. I want to do some any other business, but I want to spend the conclusion of the main part of the podcast, Dave, just talking about Mack Hansen, who I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's very hard to know what to make of guys who come up guys who come up from Australia, because everything about Australian rugby on a domestic level just doesn't fill you with joy. It makes you a bit wary, and guys who can't make it into the Australian squad. I mean, the Australian squad at this moment in time is in a very good place, but it's a tight squad. Those guys aren't necessarily playing. The provincial rugby.
Apparently, Mack Hansen was going to be in the Australian squad for the current Tri-Nations before he signed for Connacht.
No!
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe it. He's that good. Would you believe it?
Well, if he...
Alan says it, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're going to endear yourself to your home crowd, you score a try in your debut, that's great. John Porch, I think, did it as well. But there's ways to endear yourself, and there's ways to make yourself almost legendary, and that was legendary. I think if they had possibly gone back and said that Ulton getting out of the way was obstruction, Ulton knew what was coming.
What's he supposed to do? Let the player hit him?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ben Blaine may have found it very, very, very loud and not in his favour coming off the pitch, irrespective of what the final scoreline was. Yeah. But it's a way. But it wasn't that. He grew from. He was doing things.
Yeah, that was kind of a crowning of a good performance.
It was a good performance because he's very. I think we have to, because there's a thing in Australia called the Barassi line, and I think we need to explain that, which is basically there's a line they draw, which is basically north of that is rugby and rugby league, and south of that is AFL. And in my head, anybody from north of that line isn't good under the high ball. I've got to throw that out now because all three guys we've got, Porch, Bod, and now Mack, can all really catch the ball, and this was not a nice night to be catching football.
I was asking Andy Friend, as our listeners heard about that. You're a man who knows the AFL very, very well, so when you speak about this, I listen.
Yeah, so those guys are all playing. Now, there's, like I say, they are clearly, it's not just about run. They love to run, but they love to catch. The only thing I don't know if he can do at the moment is kick, but John Porch I didn't think could kick, and he can kick very, very well, and I saw a couple of kicks not too bad. It's a great start. It's back it up now. Back it up next week. The whole team has to back it up next week.
I know it is, but I just wanted to salivate in that try for a few seconds longer. It was some try, Lily.
It was.
What a try.
Well, it was so exciting to watch, wasn't it? You always just you were kind of willing him, keep going,
Side steps. He had the fullback just bamboozled.
Absolutely. Look, it's very exciting. It's exciting to see. He's obviously not going to get those opportunities every game, but he certainly made that one, and he will be remembered for his debut in Sportsground in a competitive match. For that try,
I think people are going to talk in years to come. Yeah, I was there. I saw it live.
What a try. Because it was in the air for ages. Look, we've talked about it enough. You've heard it on their little snippets. That's enough of that. We've got to do any other business. I'm starting with... I have a second one, so we'll finish on the second one. But let's start in the first one, which is we're going on to our premium podcast next week. Just want really quickly, guys, we've all been at this for years. We love bringing you free podcasts, and we will continue to do that. You'll get this match day podcast all the time. And as far as we're concerned, every single one of you who listens to this podcast is what we call a podcast fan, and we value you beyond belief. And do not sit at home and think, I'm letting the guys down now if I don't subscribe. Fully understand, no problem whatsoever, and we'll still be here for you every week to bring you all the news from matches. But
just tell other people.
Tell other people. Share if you want to back us. Share the podcast on WhatsApp and get other people involved in our podcast. And that is so value to us. But if you're there and you just love that extra information and you love the bits that we do, just keep in mind this journalism gig is hard. I can give you examples of having moved into retail, and I was asked there recently to spend what was the equivalent for a quarter-page ad in a paper, the equivalent of 10 times what I would get paid to write in that quarter page as a journalist. That's the reality of what we're dealing with as journalists. It's really, really difficult for us out there. All of us are battling away. I'm very, very lucky as a person to have the option to switch into retail and still get to hang out with you guys and do these little bits and bobs. But as a group, we're looking to just fund what we do. It's not like we're all going to get rich from this. We are not. But it just backs us up, make sure we get the best equipment, the best online hosts for the pod, the chance to go away and cover games away from home.
Yeah, that's important. That's, getting to the away game so that we can get to them in reasonable comfort, a little bit of comfort, not necessarily having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and arrive back at 5 o'clock in the morning the next day for a game, which we probably will do for Leicester because that's the way William likes to do things.
Oh no, I'm putting the veto in on that.
we won't be doing for Paris. No. I'm already using that as a weekend to bring my wife away. I'm taking my wife away. I'm going to join you over there. I've already booked my flights.
Good
and
for
I've already
you.
done it because
I would like to point out, was this meant to be a surprise because you've kind of blown it?
No. It was part of the whole deal. I'm trying to get her to go to the U Arena for the Rashing game against Northampton in the same weekend is proving to be more difficult.
There you go. Well, maybe you should do other things in Paris. Are there other things to do in Paris? Who knows? Okay. Any other business, Dave?
So I think everybody's seen the tackle which led to the red card of the Brive Rock Peterson.
That's a crazy tackle.
I'm telling you, he got 24 weeks and it was halved. My view on that is rugby lets you off says there's a basic limit and then tries to get you off weeks. Every other sport says there's a basic limit that the minimum for getting a red card, and then we build it up based on what you did. Rugby needs to start to look at that. That tackle was worth 24 weeks. It wasn't so much. It was so late. It was in a different game, and 24 weeks was the max it deserved. Stop looking for excuses to be lenient. Just go. We don't want this play in our game, and say that's a minimum 12 weeks, and build up from 12 weeks, not down from 24.
You're here. Well said, Alan.
Yeah, just something small. Love the fact that Rock Nation are on board and makes it look all exciting, and the URC is all exciting and everything, but just turn it down a smidgen.
Okay, so just tone down some of the...
No, just the volume. You know, So you have a clan stand, we're all talking. Next minute the Rock Nation comes up, everybody has to shut up because you can't hear yourself because it is so loud.
Okay. It's the first time you've ever complained about that. Not. Okay, listen, a shout out to everyone in Zebre Rugby Club and the Italian Rugby Federation, because they've lost an absolute incredible human being. One of our rugby family, as the RFU's tweet so beautifully put it, Leanardo Mussini. Just Leonardo to all of us, the man who looked after us in what we do. It's so hard to get on air sometimes. We're over there. William Davies, our producer, he will climb walls, he will throw things around that you can hear in the background. He will do anything to get us on air. But you need the people at the ground to really care for you. And we've had some amazing broadcasts that were so important from Parma, and they were all down to this gentleman who has passed away at such a young age. We don't get the chance, Linley, in what we do, to remember all the amazing rugby people and to mark them each week when there's a passing of someone like Brendan Gear in here and all those other people. We just don't always get the chance to properly do it. And this isn't just a tribute to Leonardo, this is a tribute to everyone who is part of the rugby family, who instills the love in the game to us. We're all going to miss him so much, and I just wanted to give him the tribute he deserved.
Well, yeah, I was actually quite stunned. Yeah. I actually get upset thinking about it.
So do I,
to be honest.
We all do.
I was actually very stunned when I saw it up on the Zebre website. I mean, Leonardo, he seems that he was just always there in Parma, and he was always there for us. And I know there are times I've gone over there, and in fact I remember one vivid occasion when I had to go over there to do an interview with a player. And he had it all set up and organised, and he was just so welcoming, and there was not a question about, why was I doing this interview or where was I going to do it. It was all set up for me going over there by myself, and I just found he was always, I think what I liked about him, there was nothing was a problem for him. It was always ciao, and he was so Italian, and he was just so friendly and welcoming, and most of all, he was really, really efficient. He was very, very good at his job. And I was actually stunned when I read that. I had no idea that he was ill. And, for someone so young, who was so very, very good at his job, but not just that, he was a friend. He was a friend to us all, and he was the sort of person you could sit down and have a drink with, and you'd be quite, you'd be engaged, and so I'm quite stunned and quite heartbroken for him actually, and for Zebre, and obviously for his partner.
I just want to give William the final word. He's popping in on the podcast. Let's finish the podcast with your thoughts, William.
Wonderful man, one of the most helpful people. He was Zebre. He brought an energy. Look, he's Italian. He turns up, he's wearing a shirt and tie and a pair of shoes, and he just looked the business, and he was there the way Italians can dress. And as Linley says, welcoming, helpful, sorted us out, pulled strokes. I don't know what the Italian for that is, but Irish people will understand it. And he was just effervescent. And it's really, really sad. He's a young man. And he was that franchise. He was so important, and he was the only person I've ever seen who could carry on two conversations at once. One in English with me, and a conversation in Italian with somebody else in the room. I could barely keep up, but he never lost control, and we're going to miss him. And rest in peace, my friend.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Side